You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250, where we look at events that took place 250 years ago this week. This is from the American Revolution Podcast, a short bonus episode to remind you about important anniversaries of the Revolutionary War. This week, we remember the publication of Common Sense on January 9th, 1776. On January 9th, 1776, a new political pamphlet swept across the colonies. Common Sense first appeared in Philadelphia as an anonymous pamphlet. The first run of 1,000 copies quickly sold out, and numerous reprints began to pop up all over the continent. Later editions named the author as Thomas Paine. Paine had recently arrived in Philadelphia with a letter of recommendation from Benjamin Franklin. Before that, he had lived his whole life in England as a staymaker, a sailor, a tax collector, and a schoolteacher. When he arrived in Philadelphia, he began working as a magazine editor. As such, Paine took very radical and controversial positions on a variety of issues in his publications. In the fall of 1775, he began writing a pamphlet on independence, which hit the streets of Philadelphia on January 9, 1776. Part of the appeal of Common Sense was that it did not simply repeat all the arguments over English encroachments on traditional rights. It went much farther, attacking fundamental assumptions of monarchy and colonialism. The work began with a common social contract notions that all government is, at best, a necessary evil to allow people to live together in a society. But then he went on to attack directly the idea of monarchical government, run by a man who had no legitimacy to rule over others other than being the son of the previous ruler. Similarly, aristocracy was not based on merit, it was just inheritance of power. Next, Paine attacked the absurdity of a small island ruling an entire continent. America completely dwarfed England in size. The idea that Americans would allow themselves to be ruled by a tiny island just didn't make sense. America had already developed to the point that it didn't need Britain anymore. To the notion that Americans owed some debt to England for developing the colonies, he pointed out that England had always operated the colonies from a self-interest and had benefited greatly from trade for centuries. America owed Britain nothing. And not content with the benefits that they were already receiving, Britain now wanted to take even more from the colonies through taxation. When America resisted this, Britain attacked America with military force, therefore destroying any loyalty which Americans might have been inclined to give. Because America had evolved to the point where it could operate independently, Britain had become an impediment to Americans. He argued that an independent America could conduct much more profitable trade directly with Europe if it could get out from under British trade laws and restrictions. Even if Britain did back down on the current crisis, these same issues would return over and over. The only way to stop that was to become an independent nation. Going beyond the call for independence, Paine next turned to an explanation of what sort of government should rule America. He presented a detailed plan for a convention to create a new government and establish a charter to define that government. Paine laid out details that the charter should include, such as protecting basic freedoms and property, including freedom of religion. In the new government, each state would elect a delegation of 30 representatives. Congress would then elect a president from a particular state, selected by lottery. He felt that each state would hold the presidency once until all the states got a chance to have a president. Then the lottery would start over. Congress would pass all laws by a 3/5 majority. Finally, Paine attacked the idea that Britain's military was too powerful. He noted that America's resources would allow it to build a larger navy than Britain's if only the Americans would step up and get it done. He noted that while the colonies were united at the moment, over time divisions would certainly arise. Therefore, now was the best time to seek independence. Otherwise, the feeling of unity might fade and prevent America from becoming a continental power. He also said that America's untapped wealth from Western lands could help pay for the costs of the fight for independence. Declaring independence was also the only way to get help from Europe. At the time, European powers viewed the rebellion as an internal British matter. By declaring independence, America could seek help from Europe in its fight for liberty. In other words, America should seek independence and seek it right away. Common Sense quickly became the most popular reading material in America and quickly spread to Britain and Europe as well. Certainly, the writing, in both style and substance, had a big impact on its popularity. But the timing of its publication probably also contributed to its success. Paine's attack on the monarchy came around the same time that Americans were learning that King George had declared the colonies in a state of rebellion and that they needed to be crushed militarily. His notions of American military power came just months before Washington successfully drove the entire British Army out of Boston. Paine's ideas hit at just the right time to convince people, in light of other events, that America could and should become independent. Paine continued to write articles and letters through much of 1776. Sometime after the Declaration of Independence, he enlisted in the Continental Army and became an aide to General Nathanael Greene. He would continue to write inspiring propaganda for the Army, including his famous 13-part series of articles entitled The Crisis. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. To learn more about these events, check out episode 81 of the American Revolution podcast, and please subscribe for free on whatever podcast platform you like. Thanks again for listening to this Revolution 250 moment on the American Revolution podcast.